I'm very excited to introduce tonight's presenter. Rabbi Margie Jacobs is a Reconstructionist rabbi, mindfulness meditation teacher, and facilitator of the Jewish studio process. She brings together Jewish text study, meditation, mindful art experiences, and reflective writing for synagogues, hillels, retreats, conferences, special events, and groups of clergy and Jewish leaders across the country. Margie has served as a congregational rabbi, regional director of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, and a Hillel director. Thank you for joining us tonight. Margie, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with all of you. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
I am here in Berkeley, where it's a little bit earlier. So hopefully I'll bring a little energy to this evening, where it is turning midnight for you soon. For the next hour, I want to have us explore the Jewish studio process, which began with Pat Allen and her colleagues as the open studio process, coming out of the art therapy world, and was brought into the Jewish world by her daughter, Rabbi Adina Allen, and they actually teach together, which is so great. The Jewish studio process is a spiritual technology that strengthens our capacity to listen and receive revelation in real time, to discern the voice of the divine as it reverberates through text, conversation, and our lived experience in this very moment, and to make space for and process everything that we've been holding in these difficult and quickly changing times. It also allows us to bring forth our intuition and our imagination so that we can innovate and respond creatively as we rebuild our hearts, our communities, and our world, as we are tasked to do. Pat Allen wrote that imagination is the deepest voice of the soul, and this will be an opportunity to listen to that voice within us. We'll begin in conversation with each other and a few texts from our tradition, and then move into art making for about 15 or 18 minutes. Each of us are in our own space, alone, together, followed by a writing practice to harvest and digest what has come onto the page in our art making. So please make sure that you have something to write on and with. And as far as other materials, art materials, anything that you have on hand will do. If you do have something aromatic, flowers, spices, essential oils, wonderful. And if not, it's completely fine. I want to assure you that I came into this practice 3 years ago with absolutely no experience in art. And it didn't make a difference. This is really a practice of listening, deep listening. And so however you feel about your artistic skill, whether you are a complete beginner or a seasoned artist, this practice welcomes you exactly where you are. So let's begin by settling in. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. Let go of the day as we go deeply into the nighttime. Receive this breath and then the next. Let your eyes rest in their sockets. Nighttime is a time of dreams, of imagining what might be as we process and digest all that we're holding. We pray each night in our tradition for safety, protection, and a Sukkot Shalom, as we invite our soul to come out and play in the mystery of the night, especially on Shavuot. I invite you to continue to receive each breath. Mindfulness is the moment-to-moment awareness of our direct sensory experience. We inhabit this very moment as we rest our attention on what we hear or taste or smell. And as we do so, we're better able to receive what's in our hearts and minds and to discover something new, an insight, or perhaps even a revelation. So I invite you to feel your feet on the ground, the chair supporting you. Invite your shoulders to soften, your jaw to soften, your eyes to rest in their sockets. Notice the breath coming in and out, all on its own. Shavuot is a time of receiving. Receive this breath and then the next. And now, if you do have something aromatic, bring it to your nose and receive that too. If not, continue to receive the breath. But if you do, take a moment and just smell. Take in one particular scent and notice, put it down and notice if anything changes inside. Is the quality of your breath different? The feeling of your body? Any emotions or thoughts that come up? Just allow whatever arises to arise. Receive. Take one more deep breath and let it out. And I invite you to open your eyes and come back into our virtual circle comprised of squares. And in the chat, just bring in one or two words of what you noticed, what you received, just from that simple act of smelling, if you did, or the simple act of breathing if you didn't have something to smell. You can also put where you're here from. Memories. Smell evokes memories. Safety, peace, and calmness. That safety that we're praying for every night, and these days every day. Anything else? Great. You can keep those coming. Mouth watering. We have a physical response when we smell something, and smell is very much related to taste. Meg was able to smell my favorite flower, fragrance from memory. That's amazing. This strong connection between memory and smell. Centering aromatherapy. Thank you. So the experience of standing at Sinai, receiving Torah, as the Torah tells us, is one of sensory awakening, coming to our senses, literally through our senses. We hear the shofar and thunder. We see the fire and lightning and smoke at Sinai, and we feel the trembling of the mountain. And as our senses awaken, we are able to receive Torah, clarity, insights, and revelations, because it brings us to this very moment. It brings us into presence. And as I discover each time as I walk by the flowers of spring here in Berkeley, the awakening of the senses at this time of year can happen not only through sound and sight, but also smell. So what might it mean to encounter our world, God, and Torah through smell? The rabbis of the Talmud invited us to Tashma, come and hear. The Zohar, the primary book of Kabbalah, invites us to come and see, Tachazeh. What would it be like to come and smell in our encounter with Torah, with the divine, with each other? To breathe in our experience. This year, our breath has been challenged. Our capacity to breathe in has been challenged. So on this Shavuot night, we take that in. We take in sense of smell. What insights and knowledge, what new Torah might we receive? So slide 2, please. In the Talmud, the rabbis suggest there are so many different descriptions of the moment of Sinai. But the rabbis have one that I really love, which is from Shabbat 88b. From each and every utterance that emerged from the mouth of the Holy One, the entire world was filled with fragrant spices. Amazing. From an experience in one location, the entire world experienced it, as we do tonight virtually. And then the next slide. The writers of the Zohar, the primary book of Kabbalah, take this even further in a way, or get more descriptive. They say, Rabbi Abba said, when the smoke of Sinai, we see here in the Torah that there was smoke that descended on the mountain of Sinai. When that smoke issued, the smoke ascended and wreathed like a cluster of grapes, rising and falling, which I read kind of like the process of breathing, right? It's rising and falling, wafting all fragrant aromas from where? From the Garden of Eden. The fragrant aromas of the Garden of Eden. We were talking about memory before. That goes way back. As is written, and this is from the Song of Songs, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense. So let's stop here for a second. The text goes on to say, what was this smoke? It was actually the presence of the Shekhinah, the feminine, indwelling, accessible aspect of the divine. So maybe in chat, if anybody has thoughts, and Sherry can read them, and we can also raise hands. And then if Sherry or Perry will ask someone to unmute, then you'll be able to. So there is a hand from Sandra.
Okay, I cannot see the hands. Okay.
So the question is, what does this evoke for you? To think about Sinai, not only as hearing and feeling and sight, but smell. What does it add to our experience of Torah, of the divine, of any moment?
Sandra, you can unmute.
Go ahead, Sandra.
I had nothing to add.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So if anybody would like to raise hand or put something in chat, you're welcome to.
It's probably better if you put it in the chat so I can see that easier.
Perfect.
Jessica says, it breaks the barrier of a quote unquote mind-based experience to a full self experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just, we're not just receiving information, we're having an entire full body experience. It goes into our hearts, into our kishkas. The Torah goes into our bodies. We are breathing it in. Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Okay. So just the next slide, please. Someone mentioned smell and memory, and there's a strong connection between the two. Marcel Proust says, but when from a long distance past nothing subsists, after the people are dead, after things are broken and scattered, taste and smell alone, more fragile, but more enduring, more unsubstantial, more persistent, more faithful, remain poised a long time, like souls remembering, waiting, hoping, amid the ruins of all the rest, and bear unflinchingly in the tiny and almost impalpable drop of their essence, the vast structure of recollection. Thank you. And the next slide. Two other connections to this. One is that when God formed Adam, according to the Torah, God blew the very breath of life into Adam's nostrils. So every time we breathe and smell, we are re-enlivened. Okay, thank you. And we are going to take this idea of smell and everything that each of us came into this session with, whatever you came in with, and move into our creative process. So slide 6, please. Rabbi Adina Allen wrote a blessing specifically for this practice, and it's based on the idea that just as God is the source of creation and creativity, we, by being in B'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image, are naturally creative, no matter how we feel about our artistic abilities. So, blessed are you, source of life, who created us in your image and invites us to renew daily the works of creation. Blessed are you who created us creative. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer Yetzirim. And so we move on to the first part of this process, which is to set an intention. An intention, on the next slide, is answering the question, what is it that you hope to experience or to receive in the art making tonight? Intention is like a prayer that has already been answered. It's written in the present tense in the first person. So it may be something like, I feel joy, or I feel grounded, or I discover something new. It might also be really specific. I gain clarity on a decision I've been sitting with. And in the process, the hope is to access a different way of knowing. So take a moment with pen and paper to write your intention. Any questions about what an intention is? Okay, so let's take a moment and write. And just as in smell, just receive the intention that is yours for tonight. Don't go fishing for it. Don't make it happen. Just sit quietly. And what is it that you are really yearning for right now? Write that. If you don't know what your intention is, your intention can always be, I discover my intention through the act of art making. Meg, did you have a question? There was that hand. No. Okay. So great. Bonnie writes, I release negativity. I feel relaxation. And write on your paper, in a journal, piece of paper, your intention for tonight. And once you've written it, set it and forget it. No need to illustrate or make visible your intention or any of the images that we've been learning about. You've planted a seed, now let it go so you can receive what is yours to receive in the next moment. The next slide, please. Okay, and there are 4 rules for this process. The first is to follow pleasure. We begin the art making process not by deciding I'm going to draw a mountain or I'm going to draw smoke, but really by making marks on the page and following where the energy takes you. Do what's fun. Do what's bringing you pleasure, or what has energy for you. It may be that you're holding a lot and it comes out in more sadness or anger. And as you look at the colors before you, see if any of them evoke a response from you, from your heart and your mind. Okay. The second rule is no comment. We create a sense of safety by, and we invite imagination by not commenting on our piece or process or anyone else's. Instead of asking, am I doing it right? Ask, is the energy flowing? And if you do notice judgment, because that's just what the mind does, come back to your breath and the felt sensation of putting brush or marker to paper. And thank you. In this dreamlike state of creative process, we don't control what comes onto the page. There may be images, there may not. Just like in a dream, what you see doesn't always mean what you think it does. So it's not, don't even bother trying to interpret. And it doesn't have to make sense to you or to anyone else. And I want to ask you, if you are comfortable or if you want to take a risk, please show your video, show your face. And I'm going to ask you to point your camera to your piece. And if we can stop the recording for this part, that would be great. So that we can feel like we're all in a studio together.
I do not think that we can actually stop the recording, but we can edit it out before. Yeah.
Great, terrific. And I'm going to be playing some music. If you prefer to work in silence, you're welcome to do that. We are going to be coming back together in about 18 minutes. Hi. Any questions before we go into our art making?
Can it be a poem or?
So right now we're not writing words. We're just making marks on the page. There may be words or even a series of words that come out in your art making.
I have only a pen. I have no color.
Oh, okay. So you can just see what happens when you just start making lines and follow where they go. Make it fun. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. Great.